Excellence is never an accident. It is always a result of high intention, sincere effort, and intelligent execution. It represents the wise choice of many alternatives. Choice, not chance, determines your destiny. Sincere effort. So today, I woke up thinking about why I write in Stoic Answers. I've written so many articles about Stoicism that I began to develop the idiotic idea that there wasn't much more to write about. Of course, I was very wrong to think that because becoming a Stoic or any sort of a great man doesn't happen with the reading of a single blog post. It happens through day in and day out effort. This is why Ryan Holiday's idea of the daily Stoic is absolute genius. You do not become a great man with one reading of Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. You become a great man by consistently doing little acts of greatness, like doing the dishes when you don't want to, or sitting down to write, or work on your business for 30 minutes. With sincere effort and low expectations, trusting the compounding effect of day in, day out actions. I must confess that writing is one of the things I hate the most doing, or getting myself to do, better said. Just the idea of thinking about sitting down, putting my thoughts in order, disarming them as in a puzzle, and then putting them back together in a more cohesive way, it makes my stomach churn. It's weird because it is also one of the things in my life that give me the most meaning. It's a hard thing to write, to put your thoughts together and then submit them for criticism. But one thing I know to be true is that the more you write, the better you get at it. And the better you get at it, the more you want to do it. It works the same way with everything. Stephen Pressfield mentions, are you paralyzed with fear? That's a good sign. Fear is good. Like self doubt, fear is an indicator. Fear tells us what we have to do. Remember one rule of thumb. The more scared we are of a work or calling, the more sure we can be that we have to do it. One thing that we need to understand is that there is never going to be a point in our lives when we are done. You have to find yourself continuously making hard choices if you want to determine your destiny. Freedom to choose who you want to be lies in constantly making those hard choices, things you don't feel like doing. It's counterintuitive because you would expect that the way it should work is that you choose, say, you're going to be a writer, and then writing is something that you would naturally be inclined and motivated to do. And so you would just be writing out of innate motivation. But that is not the case. Far from it. If you want to decide who you are going to be in this life, you need to start making the scariest choices. The choices that make you the most nervous. The choices that you really don't feel like doing at the moment. The choices that give you dread. The choices where laziness will just not fit. The hard choices. That's where freedom lies. Your power to say no to your lazy, scary self and yes to your grand one. Consistently. Day in and day out. It gets easier though, and it's wildly addicting. So it really comes down to washing the dishes when you don't want to. It comes down to sitting to write when you don't want to. It really comes down to talking to a cute girl in the street when you don't want to. It comes down to fixing that thing you've been pushing off for decades. What kind of life is that one? You might be thinking. One in which you're constantly doing things you don't want to? Well, let me tell you, that's the best kind of life. Because it's strangely addicting. You do something you don't want to do, and you realize that it wasn't so scary and hard after all, and you feel proud about having done it afterward. You do it another time, and it is not as hard and difficult as last time, and you start to get cocky. And eventually, it comes to a point where it is not hard for you anymore. You're so competent, you start looking for grander challenges. And in this process, you literally become another person, a different one. Our brains, by the simple but very powerful act of habit, wire themselves differently. William James describes it best. He says, what is so clearly true of the nervous apparatus of animal life can scarcely be otherwise than true of that which ministers to the automatic activity of the mind. In sequence of mental action which has been frequently repeated tends to perpetuate itself, so that we find ourselves automatically prompted to think, feel, or do what we have been before accustomed to think, feel, or do under like circumstances, without any consciously formed purpose or anticipation of results. So it is important to act as if you were already the man you're intending to be, even though you don't feel like it. No, better said, especially because you don't feel like it. If it's a hard thing to do, you must do it. Push a little bit. You'll notice that you have old habitual connections bucking you, telling you why you cannot be this person you're intending to be, but that's the old bundle of messed up habits and thinking habits talking. It's easy to believe that the world is a fixed place, or that you and your personality are something fixed and unchangeable. But this cannot be farther from the fact that everything is in change and flux all the time. Psychedelics make you sometimes painfully aware of this. One thing is true: a man cannot change if he doesn't start taking the hard choices. But the possibility of forming new habits and ideas and a new sense of self is always there. And I'll finish with the following quote, which, on top of speaking of the possibility of change, gives you a warning. Kurt Vonnegut says, we are what we pretend to be, so we must be careful about what we pretend to be. Until next time.